if you want to double something, it's going to take an effort. People aren't going to do twice the work in half the time. You're going to have to hire people. You're going to have to organize things. It's going to have to work like a smooth running machine. That's the black hole. That's the thing in this industry that I've targeted as the number one thing that we have to define and fix. I come from a time and space where the customer was always right. And I never believed that, because it can't be possible, The customer has to be guided, with a smile, of course. The sales model is such an interesting model because we can't live without sales. But again, for my generation, everything was always sales driven. Sales, 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 sales. But sales generates work from the top down. You might make a sale that causes you to have to hire a new cleaning crew. It's going to affect your business from top down. But if you can minimize your process, if you can get things done quicker, efficiently, if you can reduce your inventory, it's all bottom line money. Sales is profit's a part of revenue that comes from sales. Big equation. Inventory is inventory. Reduce it, you make money. Eliminate space, reduce your footprint, you make money.
What's up, Wrap Shop Talk? Just wanted to bring you guys into today's episode. We've got myself, Dan Workman, Brent Knott, and the man of the hour is my operations manager, Chris Blockston, with us. And we're excited to have a chat about what it's like to be outside of our industry, coming in and seeing all the problems that we create for ourselves and how other people might be able to solve them.
Let's hop into some of your history of your background, what you did prior to this industry.
Sure.
First and foremost. And I'll let you take off on that.
Right on. Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Brent. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. My background comes from, I did warehousing for 13 years out of high school. I started as a senior in high school when I was 17 in a warehouse for Smith's Food and Drug. Did that for 13 years. It was supply chain stuff. It was inventory management. I had 2.5 million square feet of inventory to keep track of. And I was actually in charge of product integrity, so not sending rotten food to the stores. And we also had a guaranteed product shelf life date. So, I had a team of people that we kept track of all that across a 750,000 square foot produce warehouse and a 1.25 million square foot grocery warehouse that included frozen deli meat.
That is so much food.
Right?
It sure doesn't go bad.
Right, and it was fun.
I can't manage my fridge.
We started forecasting turkeys. I was actually their turkey guy. Yeah. So my big story from Smith's was I handled their turkeys for 7 years. I'd start in March and have that planned out by, say, October to start sending. We start shipping to stores. But my background from that particular job was, or I guess my greatest success would be that I took them from just storing turkeys in Tucson and then filling up 7 external warehouses they had up through Utah and Northern California. They would just start filling turkeys at those warehouses and just until they got to the end. And we literally had trucks that needed to go from Tucson to Northern California and from Northern California to Tucson by the end of the season because we had turkeys in the wrong areas. So I got them to start looking at sales and percentages and regions and stores and started getting them to store certain amounts of turkeys in different buildings across that string of warehouses they had up the West Coast. And it allowed them to, reduce transportation and stuff like that. So that was my success there.
Yeah. And your experience at Totally Awesome Computers, I think that is pretty impressive too.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. After I got out of the grocery warehouse, I went into computers. I was lucky enough to be born when Microsoft was invented, or actually born before that. I was born before the 4-function calculator, actually, for a little trivia. So, they added addition and subtraction on my dime, and I was like, wow. So, could you imagine doing things without calculators? I can't. We went through the computer thing, right? And I just jumped on board with that. I got certified in Microsoft engineering in the late 90s, and I did computers for 30 years. So we had a local, I was living in Phoenix at the time, and I was contracting at Intel. I helped them migrate from Windows 98 and Windows NT to Active Directory 2000. And it was fun. It was huge stuff. It was the beginning of computers and networking and before security, and then now that we have security in place. So I transferred with Intel up to Utah. My personal side from that is I followed my daughter and my divorce back here. and purposely. And the computers, we had the dot-com crash in 2000, and that's what led me to Totally Awesome Computers. Was I was working for Intel. They laid off 6 of the 7 people. I was one of them, and I started looking for jobs in the computer industry, and it was tough. And Totally Awesome was a local job here where they were doing well at OEM building, and I loved building computers. I've never bought one. Neither is anybody I know, I don't think, and if they did, I'd be upset. But I started working for them, and going into that situation was awesome because once again, it was a small business owner with a great platform, which was something I've never been able to achieve. Like, to back up a little bit, I had a business license for 10 years, and it was just something to pay for the fuel in my truck, I swear. I could not get it over the hump. And that's my story when it comes to business. But supporting somebody's platform that's good, that has a decent thing to build on, that's what you're looking for as an integrator, as a person like me. And the owner of Totally Awesome Computers had that. He just didn't know how to manage it, And oddly enough, I've given interviews about him too recently regarding a documentary they're doing on that company. But we were able to take him, and when I say we, I mean me. We were able to take that company from building 3 computers a day in their warehouse, and quality checking maybe 2 of them, to building and quality checking 80 a day. Yeah,
3 to 80 and all quality check.
Yeah, and it was just about process improvement. It was about putting things in a order, in a fashion that where you could bring something in one end of the building and shove it out the other, and hit every stage along the way, and not have to backtrack or, cross paths, or re-walk where you've already been, so to speak. So there was a lot of success there, and in all reality, I wouldn't be having this conversation today had that owner listened to a few of us. I wanted to take him to Arizona. We could have opened a new store. We could have been bought by Dell Computers or HP Computers. There were so many opportunities for him and his business, and he was the number one OEMer.
Just a little bit nuts.
But yeah, the dude wouldn't listen to anybody. As a matter of fact, his quote recently is, the success of his business was all him. Like the result of his business was all him. And I was fortunate enough to be able to say, yeah, it was. That's why it's closed and gone. He made money on the backs of us, and that's fine.
But that experience with Totally Awesome Computers, when we talked about that, when I was first reading you, that was one of the things that drew me to bring you on board. Was because what we do is manufacturing in a sense. When we're producing a product that has multiple stages, and each stage has its own quality check, and fine-tuning everything to be a well-oiled machine. Like building computers is the same kind of thing. It's how my vision is, but I'm not great at integrating and implementing it all. I've had to over the years of starting the business and being out of necessity doing it, but not doing it as well as somebody like Chris. And so that experience that Chris had doing that is what it's like light bulb of that's exactly who I need to help grow a vision and implement those strategies and processes to make our manufacturing what it should be and not the jumbled mess that it usually is.
Well, that's the thing. It's funny because that's all we are as manufacturers, and manufacturing is a much older business than, say, vehicle wraps. Right. We just have a custom component of the creative freedom aspect. And I think we get our own way in the artistic world of that's why it's so hard. We can't be organized because it is creative. It's no, you can literally process that too. And there's one guy in our industry that's literally doing the same avatar across the board. He's crushing it nationwide, pretty sure he's doing 20+ million in art sales, not production at all, art sales. So that just tells you that it can be systemized. And we have a lot of cleanup to do in the manufacturing components, and we really should be studying more manufacturers.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
Because it can get a whole lot more dialed than what it is. And I was talking to you yesterday, and you were nerding out on it. I was like, dude, I'm stoked for this because, we're trying to eliminate waste.
Right.
And that's what you did. Is you not only tried to eliminate waste in the food world, which was on a expiry date, which is even harder in my opinion. I never want to do a restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you have to have inventory and the end part of there's a deadline.
Right.
And so there's like an art of how much you buy and stuff. Here, like shelf life's great. So
Right.
well, there's no concern there.
Right.
But to go from 3 to 80,
Yeah.
that's a massive difference. And also the fact that, take notes, entrepreneurs, people just want to be seen.
Right.
Right. And so I think that it seemed like you talking about it, all things like unknown to me on that story, sound like you really enjoyed that job.
I did, and it was actually something that when they interviewed me, I couldn't even help it. I shed a couple tears because we did a lot of really, really cool stuff there. And that was before I got educated. It was when I was just doing what I knew as far as assembly and doing warehousing. I didn't understand that for 13 years what I was really learning was what I call space management. I really know how to look at systems and organize them in a space that is efficient and makes most sense, or at least the most logic based on all the input I get from every stage along the way. Because honestly, it's not me. It's the folks involved working with me that make that happen.
Right.
Like, I got to call this out, Dan. Yesterday you said your wife doesn't recognize the shop anymore, and you're like, it's all Chris, he's doing a great job. And it's really not. It's the guys. It's Dan supporting the decisions that I'm trying to, that I implement. Like, we go to the guys, what do we need? Hazard cabinets, some things that make it a little more safe. All right, Dan, we need those. Yeah, sure, I'll buy those. He buys those, we put them in place, and they take it upon themselves to make it a better atmosphere. But I think that comes from what we started when I came here, which was cleaning things up right off the bat.
Yeah. And you said atmosphere. So our core values are
Epic.
Is epic, empathy, passion, integrity, and commitment. And that's to our team and our customers. But immediately when Chris came on board, he's like, that's awesome. I love that. And he came up with an addition to that, which I'll let him share.
Yeah.
What was your add to our epic values?
So coming here, I love the fact that Dan had values defined, epic, empathy, passion, integrity, commitment. And they all revolve around the customer and the client's success, not his. Or you know what I mean? And so I really found value in that. And what I added to it is I think of that as our foundation. And those are our values. And they also feed our pillars, which support our roof, which is going to elevate everybody around us. But they are AMG, atmosphere, money, and growth. And you got to have a great atmosphere. This needs to be a VIP experience, not only for our clients, but for our employees. And for everybody that walks through this door, it needs to be happy, right?
We want a great place to work. We want people to be able to say, I love working here, which is so funny because that's what we learned about this weekend.
Exactly. It ties right in. And I get a lot of folks walk into this foyer and they're like, wow, this is really cool, man. They like the color, they like the design, they think it's neat. And so that atmosphere, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, money is needed. You need money to grow. If you want to provide the best, it takes money to have the best. So we're not talking about lining our pockets. We're talking about lining the pockets of our clients. And that just comes full circle back to us. So we'll be able to better our lives, better our employee lives, better our client lives, all in a big circle.
Right.
So that money is important. And with great atmosphere and with money, we're going to grow. I've done the market research. I think last year this was like an 8-point-something billion dollar industry. This year it's 10-point-something. By 2030, it's going to be another 30 billion. I just want one.
Just one bill.
Just one.
One bill.
You guys can have everyone else can have the rest. I don't need 200 of them like Elon or Jeff or any of these guys that are flying to space and back nowadays. I mean, wow, they got so much money they can take broken space programs and make them successful. I don't need that much money. I just want enough money to help everybody around me.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here, and that's what's so cool. So jumping over my career, after computers and all that, I got done with computers and I was kind of tired of it. And then the pandemic hit, and I just had happened to start to go to college. So long story short, I pursued 2 bachelor degrees in management information systems only because I had done computers for 30 years. I was doing supply chain management. Well, I started out in business administration. I got an associate's in that. And then I decided, well, the pandemic hit, and I'm like, well, that's what the world needs help with is supply chain. And me being who I am, I switched my degree to supply chain. And then during that degree, I was up at 3 a.m. going through Weber State's classes, and I'm like, wow, I can pursue an MIS at the same time if they'll just move a couple classes around for me, because I'm special. You need a university to do this for me. But they did it. They literally worked around my schedule because of my work experience and my computer savvy, experience. And I was able to do both degrees and get, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I could do both degrees at the same time because I landed them in the same semester. FAFSA only gives you money for one bachelor degree. Unless you're doing two at the same time and they don't know it, and then both degrees land in the same semester and you graduate.
Efficiencies.
So I was told by the university that I got 2 bachelor degrees quicker than anyone they'd ever seen. I mean, I did it in you need 120 credits for a bachelor degree, and I did 2 in 138 or something like that. Just by cross-referencing classes and not having to take the same thing over and over and over. But that supply chain component, that's what drew me to this job, is I was looking for jobs. And I graduated in December of 23, cum laude with both degrees, and I thought I'd jump right into a career and move forward. And I think that's where the story probably begins for Dan and I, because I was a director of project management and inventory for a fiber internet service. They eventually wanted me to be the CPA, and I didn't want to be that. So I left. They wrote me a letter of recommendation, gave me a little bit of money, and said, consume my job, and said, have a nice life. I was an inventory manager for another company in Utah, a big global company. I was a purchasing director for a company right up the road. And all these small companies, first of all, I don't want to work for a big company. I don't want to work for tech, and I don't want to work for government. I want to work for someone smaller where I'm more significant. Okay, so these medium-sized companies were something I was targeting. And the problem with it is you meet owners where I'll know within 3 months whether or not we're going to move forward or not. I'm not the type to stick around to jobs I don't love. If you have problems with money and need to pay your bills, find something you love and do that. Because that's where your heart's going to be, and that's where it's going to be successful. Too many people in my lifetime, and myself included, have held jobs that we didn't love and we didn't like for a paycheck. And it's just not worth it, I'm telling you. It wasn't until I started living for myself that I started going, I don't want to work for this company. It doesn't support values I believe in, And maybe I had to define those values first. Maybe I didn't do that for 30 or 40 years, I don't know. But when I did get my values and I started working for different companies, it's kind of like, I'm got enough education to run your company. So if we can't come to some sort of healthy balance on the direction a company is going to go, or if there's too much passive-aggressive behavior in the employee or in the staff, I'll have those conversations and we'll call it that day. And that's what happened. You go to these companies where they just don't have the right focus on the direction they're going. They're trying to make something that they're already doing great better instead of focus on all the things they're doing horribly. It's that ego thing that people get in their head where I do this so great that I can just make it greater. And I think I talked to you about it, Dan, about someone that was he was doing something 25% better than the rest of the industry, and he was trying to work on that. And I was like, why? And it became a contention point for us. So I had to move on,
And it seems like part of it too is you're working for places that didn't, like you talked about your values, but also they weren't valuing you and your actual skills and knowledge.
Yeah.
And kind of, okay.
Yeah. They didn't want to hear it. It's like, I'll run my business, and you're like, well, this is why you brought me here. Yeah. I'm not just gonna. I had a giant construction company, and I love this story because I was working for Dan. I took a job and came here, and I loved it. I just loved working for Dan because he's so supportive, and he's got such a great platform. Brand recognition with his company is huge. I wear my shirt in public all the time. I've been with Dan, twice when people stopped and called us out? It happens to me all the time. So it was really exciting, but I had this other calling. And a company that pursued me after the fact and blah, blah, blah. So I went to Dan with a problem and said, I've got this offer that I kind of need to take. And as a bummer as it was for us, I did ask him to keep me on and to let me be involved and to let me just sort this out, so to speak. And so I went and did that. And as it turned out, it was just a horrible culture. It was my dream job. Big, giant construction company that is building data centers for Facebook. I never wanted to work for a tech company, but here I was working on a multi-billion-dollar project to be a manufacturing inventory person. They wanted me to go down and count steel. Like, I'm not even kidding you. They thought I was going to be downstairs on the floor going 1, 2, 3. Yep, there's 3 of them. You know, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we got 5 of those.
Inventory manager.
Yeah. With a dual bachelor's
Yeah.
in supply chain. And then they hired a third-party company to come in and implement to the Toyota production system. I got so offended I quit. Like, but I was also talking to Dan during the whole time going, dude, this isn't working for me. I'm sorry, you know, let's figure this out, you know.
But at the same time, I had hired your replacement. And it also was not working out. I was like, Chris, she's got to go. You need to come back.
Yeah. So there was a lot of two-way communication going along the whole time. And so we were able to bring it back together, and, you know, I've never been happier in my professional career because I work for someone who supports what I believe is a good direction. And I mean, I think that's what people need to do. They need to find the job that they love, that they want to do for something that they believe in.
Mm-hmm. And just to put it in perspective, with Chris being back, and just in the last few months, our revenue, without changing anything other than just having Chris back and helping with operations and managing, our revenue has grown 30-40%.
Nice. Yeah. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but this is what I've brought to Dan's situation, is the ability to compartmentalize everything. From cleaning the bathrooms, to having a microfiber towel service, to keeping things on order like alcohol, propane, tape, blades, all the things the guys need to do their jobs. But I think it's more than that. It's our culture. It's literally what we're doing here. And I mean, I love to tell this story because my story with Identity Graphics, and when I'm finally done with it, which is going to be sometime, it might be in the near future, it could be in the long-term future, based on our success, you know, on how long Dan has me around, because I'm in it for the long haul. Right. But I started with the toilets here. Like, this was just like any other shop I'd ever gone to. Just a bunch of folks doing work, doing good work, but...
And the bathrooms were gross.
Yeah, the bathrooms were gross, and the atmosphere wasn't there. So I come in as, you know, an operations manager, big title, supposed whatever, right? And yeah, I'm in there scrubbing toilets because I was born in 1970, so cleaning toilets, you know, my mom, I had chores to do, right? And there were things, it just doesn't bother me. So that's what I did. I cleaned up the bathrooms, cleaned up the floors, started to make things look a little bit better, started to let people know I care about them. And when they came to, you know, come to me, and when it was so funny when I first got here, it was always, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I'm like, we're not curing cancer here, guys. Like, we know what the customer wants, right? Yeah, and I'll get it done. Yeah, well, then don't worry about it. You know, like, I'm not here to make you be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, I'm here to make sure that you're safe, happy, provided for, being given an opportunity to support yourself. You know, it's not that I try to get involved in people's personal problems and all that kind of stuff outside of work. What I try to do is provide them an opportunity to have a great life. And that starts with Dan having a great place to work, and us having a culture where people can come and feel safe. And, you know, when they come and say, hey, I've got a dentist appointment, it's not, oh my God, we've got so many jobs that day. It's more like, thanks for taking care of your teeth. I really appreciate that. You know what I mean? And that's how we go about it here. And that's how we want to retain people. With that comes transparency. You know, we have to be transparent with regards to what we're doing as a business. Because these businesses have highs and lows, right? The revenue, the work.
Right.
However, when you look at it mathematically, there's ways to smoothen that out. There's ways to bring work in more consistently and keep things in line, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that just comes from being able to compartmentalize everything.
Yeah. So that leads into another question of being outside of our industry and coming into it. You've been into it for those 6 months or so. Yeah. Like what things have you noticed that you're like, yeah, this needs big improvement, this needs improvement, and obviously you have a limited scope on just what we do here. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not perfect. We're not the best in the industry,
Sure.
but we do a good job. But we have same problems that a majority of wrap shops do that are trying to figure out, like, where are you at now, or what are we working on that you've seen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I love it because coming from outside the industry, one of the things I pride myself in is I apply the theory that I learned in school to anything. That's why I've been able to do sinks and toilets, wrapping, fiber internet, just whatever, because it's just stuff. Everything has a process and it all has to be defined. And when you start talking about the Toyota production system, that's when you start talking about being able to remove waste. So in short, what we do is we implement structure, we remove waste, and we drive strategic outcome. And how, let's see, I kind of lost track of the question. From outside the industry coming in.
Yeah, basically applying that knowledge
Yeah.
to what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, so coming in here, it's like we were doing good business and there's a lot of work. There just wasn't a lot of organization to the whole situation. So what you're trying to do is come in and help people understand that process is huge. Process is everything. Like, we did this Lego exercise where they were fictitious warehouses and different covered Legos everywhere, and you were given instructions to build an airplane. And you needed to build 12 in a certain amount of time, and blah, blah, blah. It's this thing that they do in school. And it's just a model to help you understand this. So we had all this stuff, and everyone thought oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake. And we went through this thing, and we didn't even get one airplane built. And then we changed the process. Nobody got educated, nobody ran off and got a degree and came back. This all happened within a half an hour. We changed the way we did things. Our team did all 12 planes in 3.5 minutes. All by fixing the process.
That's great.
In the order in which things were done. And keeping people from having to cross paths. And just all that waste. There's the 8 wastes in the production system of time, inventory, motion, warehousing, overprocessing, overproduction, distribution, and skill set, which is the huge one. That's why it's last. But it's the acronym's Tim Woods. You're looking to ask people to remove waste, not mistakes. Mistakes happen.
I'll point out one thing that you changed in our shop that is just specific to our shop, not necessarily the industry, but our production stuff, our production computer was on one side of our shop, and one of our printers was next to it. Our other printer was on the other side of the shop, and our print production first, and then our print production tables are also on the other side of the shop. Just because we have a small, kind of awkwardly shaped space, we have to fit things where they can fit. And so our production guy is walking back and forth a lot between the day. And so we're only in 3,000 square foot shop, but regardless, it's a lot of walking back and forth. That time spent walking day after day after day after week after month adds up. And we're like, we need to fix this. Chris says we need to fix this. So very simple. We added an extra computer in that room, so now he can have that remote desktop into our production computer and just hit print from that same space. Doesn't solve having our printers split up, but we did add some extra printers recently, so now we have 3 over there and 1 over here.
Yeah.
But that eliminates some of the walking day to day, back and forth, and that just a little bit of waste will add up over time.
Yeah.
To be more productive.
Even if it's 5 minutes, that's what people don't understand. It's times 220 business days.
That's right.
So if you learn 220 in 2080, you can start to do a lot of math. There's 220 business days and 2080 work hours in a year.
Yeah.
And start to multiply that. So the compounding effect of 5 or even 15 minutes is a massive amount of waste. Yeah.
We have low-hanging fruit in this industry, you guys, is what I've seen coming from the outside in. Now we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes, right? Because yesterday being part of RBO, and that was such a great thing, and talking about mentorship and moving, that's such a huge thing because I do use a mentor. I have lunch with one of my instructors from the university I graduated about every 3 months or so. And that's what we talk about is work and business. And the last time I had lunch with him, he's like, okay, so you're back at this job you love, you're doing the thing, what needs to be fixed. And I'm like, there's this thing called design.
I love how he talks about design.
I go, I don't know what it is about this thing, but they're all right-brained, they're all B personality, they're all creative, and they all think this just is forever. And design is our bottleneck, right? In the Toyota production system, you're trying to...
Chris calls it the black hole. Chris,
Yeah.
Design is the black hole.
It is.
Jobs go there. And they just never
We sell, $150,000 in the pipeline, boom, into design. Where's all our jobs?
Where's our work?
Where's all our work? They don't tend to get out of that quickly. So that's a major bottleneck, and that's what I try to look at. Once we get our hands around the situation, our arms around the entire process, which it did. I spent how much time documenting every single thing we do, what our employees love, what they don't like, interviewing people, asking things. I've done my own research personally in the industry. It's funny because it's lacking in so many areas, and that's why we're going to win. That's why we're successful and going to continue to be successful, because there's all these little things that isn't happening. Customer service being number one, and design. So design is, I get the creative art piece of it, but in any given manufacturing space or production space, everything has to be defined. It has to be. It's called DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, interpret, and control. And how you do that is you define things, measure. You have to define, you have to know what you're doing. What are we doing? You have to be able to measure it. What is success? What is failure? If you don't know, then what are you doing? Analyze it, remove 8 wastes, right? Analyze the waste, the processes, DMAI, interpret it, then remove use those 8 wastes to get rid of it, and then control it. You use 5 S's by setting things, standardizing, sorting them, and shining them. That's the Toyota production system in a nutshell. And so we have to define design. So what we did was we went and we've defined design packages. Now that I know what we call design, iterations and revisions, our customers and our clients have to understand that if you want a period move, that's a revision on your design. And what happens in design is that back and forth thing of colors and tweaks here and tweaks there, and there's no guidelines, there's no boundaries. Everybody's just creative and happy about it, and I'm not. I'm happy with the result, but what I've figured out and what I've discovered is there are designers out there that don't like to talk to customers, and there's designers that do. And these are the folks that we're looking for. We need designers that are not only great at what they do, but are great with communication and great at bringing the customer across the finish line with something they love. That's number one. I mean, I can't reiterate that enough. Time is one thing, but as long as we have the process defined, we can give the customer something up front to understand. Yeah. You are in a box. This isn't a cloud like the whole world lives in these days, right?
Yeah.
You're in a box, and it's called iteration 1. We get on the phone. I'm gonna back up a little bit because this story, I love this story because we had a client who gave us a down payment and came to us 4 days later. What's going on? I haven't heard from you guys. I nearly had a heart attack. I called down and I'm like, whoa, what happened there? And we went through this, discussion of why, 5 whys is another thing that we do here. Why, until you figure out what the root cause to a problem is. That day we implemented, when we get money from someone, they get a call from the designer that day, an introduction, an email, a text, a phone, all 3, but something. So our customers...
Which was typically it should be common knowledge, hey, if
Yeah.
task with a design, reach out quickly. But it wasn't defined.
Yeah, it just wasn't there.
So if it slipped through the cracks, it's because it just wasn't being paid attention to, that's the standard.
Yeah, so we had to implement, our clients are now being customer touched immediately. And that's going to come down to an hour now. That's our next step. It's not 24 hours, it's 1 hour. And then helping the customer, and this is going to start with our sales team, helping the customers understand what design is and what it means and what package you bought or didn't buy. We're doing, new customer promos where we're doing some design for free and we have packages that we charge for. And we have to all understand that, but the customer needs to understand it too. That you're going to be given. We had a designer do this last week, and I just fell in love with it because I gave him the basic principle of what I was trying to do, and he just did it. But it's tell the customer, here's your iteration. Revision 1, revision 2. After this next revision, if we can't nail this down, we're going to have to charge you or start on a different iteration type thing, right? But he walked the customer through, and you saw the email that customer sent us about how great of an experience, glowing experience was the exact terminology. And that's what we're looking for, a VIP experience.
You know what's interesting is you actually were holding the customer accountable to your standard, not the other way around. And they had it, like, when you look at that sometimes you're kind of like, well, is the customer going to like that we're telling them what to do? It's like, yeah, they came to a professional to be guided.
It really is. You start letting the customer go back and forth with where that period belongs. And
yes, it's the same thing with the design in general. Like if you just design wraps based on what the customer says they want, then you're not doing your job.
right.
They're not the designer. They're not the wrap. They've never designed a wrap in their life. They just have a feeling of, I think I like this.
Yeah.
You say, okay, here you go then. And you're not doing your job as a brand expert wrap
Exactly.
designer creating their...
Yeah, and our clients deserve that. They really do. And our business deserves that. I know I aged myself, with being born in '70 and all that, but I come from a time and space where the customer was always right. And I never believed that. Because it can't be possible, The customer has to be guided, with a smile, of course. That's what we do. It's how we go about things.
Yeah, I tell customers they're wrong about that.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to put a QR code on your tray.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So that's the black hole. That's the thing in this industry that I've targeted as the number one thing that we have to define and fix. We have a plan. We have a strategy. I'm more than excited about it because it's going to happen. It's going to work. And I just can't wait to see the results.
Yeah.
What's interesting is actually, the more I think about it, because I'm guilty. I think you're probably moderately guilty. Well, you're the designer, so maybe not. But a lot of shops don't charge for design.
Wow.
A lot, like probably most. I don't even want to put a percentage on it, but most don't charge for design and then don't define it and then also don't follow up on it.
Yeah, it gets lost.
So think about the waste on that.
Yeah.
Where it's like now you're spending hours on design, but you're also not billing for it. You have an employee that is a skilled employee and or contractor that does cost you money.
Right.
And
They
it's
love
just
it too.
going out.
Yeah.
And it is very interesting because I was talking to somebody and they do like 8 wraps a week. And they don't charge for design. I was like, dude. And he wanted to hire a you, essentially, right? And we're trying to figure out how to come up with, let's just say, anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000 worth of income to pay for that person.
Sure.
And we put a low number of $300 per design times 8. And it's what, $2,400 a week.
Yeah.
Times
52
is basically
That'll do it.
the salary of the individual he's looking for.
Right.
And it would be net profit because he's not even charging for it right now. So it's straight
Right.
to the bottom line.
Right. I want to interject there because that's one of the neatest things in the world is the bottom line, right? And what we can do from a process improvement to hit the bottom line. See, the sales model is such an interesting model because we can't live without sales. But again, for my generation, everything was always sales driven. Sales, 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 sales. But sales generates work from the top down. You might make a sale that causes you to have to hire a new cleaning crew. It's going to affect your business from top down. But if you can minimize your process, if you can get things done quicker, efficiently, if you can reduce your inventory, it's all bottom line money. Sales is profit's a part of revenue that comes from sales. Big equation. Inventory is inventory. Reduce it, you make money. Eliminate space, reduce your footprint, you make money. So, sorry, I didn't mean to
No, I think it's
follow
fantastic.
that. But I just love that speech or that talk because as much as I believe in sales, and it's one of the things that Dan and I talked about, I asked him to have sales under him versus operations because I want that sales work against operations so that we can push each other.
Well, I mean, to your point, you were talking yesterday about how your average ticket was X, and we're like, how can we get our average ticket from, let's say, 2,000 to 2,500,
Right.
or 3,000,
Right.
and I don't remember what the numbers were, but I was just using those as an example. But the principle was, it was basically, how can we reduce the amount of lettering jobs we do and turn them into a partial wrap instead?
Sure.
Now your effective production labor of not weeding product, cutting out more larger squares or tiles or, pieces of material that then can be allocated dodging door handles, reducing the time in which it takes to install.
Yeah.
So you're effectively spending the same amount of time for more revenue,
Right.
and you're not even increasing the quantity of sales you did. You just increased your total net sales for the year by $300,000-$400,000.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I think our first year and a half is just going to be a lot of low-hanging fruit type stuff. Different space, managing the process, and being able to push that efficiency. Because I've actually done the numbers for a 2.5 million year. We're already doing the right number of jobs, but our average cost per job is down.
Right.
I mean, we do a couple of things, and we're there in the same space. I'm not talking about more people, we're going to do that because we want to grow. And, I think we've got pretty lofty goals over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
But I anticipate hitting every one of them, and like that, maybe in 3 years. Nothing's going to slow us down except ourselves. So I was telling him the other day, the hardest part I have about it is there is work involved, and this isn't going to happen overnight or in 5 days or in 5 minutes. But it doesn't necessarily have to take 5 years.
Right.
It could happen quicker. Who knows? I know we're excited about all of it. I know I am.
Yep. I'm very excited. Excited to have Chris on the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And coming into the industry, it's just been a riot. Like, I have so much respect for the guys and for Dan and for you guys that do this stuff, because it's just skill sets and things that I don't have. Like, I've worked with vinyl when I race to put numbers on my bike. I know how to use a dryer and a squeegee. But wrapping is a very experience driven skill. Like, I like a nut job, decided to demo one of the vans for the guys just to be cool, right? I went out there and started tearing vinyl off. I lost the top of all my fingers without knowing it. And it hurt. It incredibly hurt. I was ripping vinyl off, and it was grabbing the tops of my skin and just yanking it off right with it.
The faster you go, the more it pulls your fingers.
And then that's when I was like, okay. This is one of those things that looks like manual labor that's no big deal, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can hurt yourself. And I did. So
Chris keeps us safe in here now.
Yeah.
Well, what are some, we can kind of close it out with, like, what are some things that shop owners can do to attract talent that care? I mean, you're self-motivated, self-driven. You're doing things that
everybody dreams of having an A player on their team.
Sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
But the thing is one, what would be a put off for you? So, like, there's a couple of different situations. Certain people have different strokes, right? But does it need to be organized enough for you to, like, okay, I'll take the reins from here? Or, like, is it okay for them to not have any processes and just hire you and, like, just give you the toolkit and resources to move forward? Like, what are some pluses that somebody could do proactively right now over the next 3 to 6 months to start trying to attract somebody? I think an ops manager is the biggest game-changing position anybody can hire. That's what my person was. That's what's allowed me to not be in my shop for 2 years. And I don't only converse with my person just like Dan converses with you.
Yeah.
They do all the work,
Yeah.
make sure everybody has their resources, etc. I think that's the number one position that is overlooked.
Sure.
To let an owner grow.
Yeah.
So if we were to start over and not have you, let's say, here, what are some things that Dan could be doing right now to prepare for the opportunity to where when you finally came into the marketplace, because you typically people like you are already working for somebody else.
Sure.
Typically.
Sure.
Until you get disgruntled, somebody does something a little amiss where they claim all the, I did all this. You're like, nah, dude, I'm out. Like,
Right.
you can
So-
have that. So what are some things that people could do to prepare, and basically, increase their odds of likelihood to attract somebody? 'Cause
Sure.
you're going to have to attract
Sure.
an A player.
Sure. I mean, in any industry, I think it's the same formula. It's finding that relationship that works, right? The interview process is important, but what I found incredibly amazing is what Dan, the predictive index, he used that to hire. So having a great job description, that represents what you'll be doing, which actually operations managers, you find this a lot in the industry. You read a job description, you go do it, it's completely different. And that tends to be a point of contention.
Right.
So your job description literally has to be on point.
Exactly what you need and what you expect.
Yeah.
Not blank.
Because you're going to get someone interested in it, right? And then I think that predictive index, I just keep going back to that because I thought I did a great job smiling and talking and doing my thing in the interview, right? Because interviewing is a skill set and you practice it just like when you practice your speech in the mirror or anything, interviewing is the same way. And when I got the job, I was like, yes, I did it again. But come to find out, it was definitely a planned, strategic outcome based on what the software he was using to match us. And it worked.
Yeah.
That's all I can say, is that it works.
And that was the predictive index, and then we did the disc assessment, and those two
Yeah,
things
those two
show
things.
like what personality types are, and it does show, and it literally points to you being an integrator as an operator,
Right.
operator of systems, and mine points to me as the visionary, and those are things that you hadn't heard of before.
Nope.
Before we had talked, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think. In a way, what Brent's asking, I think what kind of attracted you to come to work here was, I don't even know if it was what we had system-wise already. I think we had a good base. We have some systems, some softwares, some procedures that are in place, but they're not perfect. So I would assume some of that was attractive. Of like, I can make this better.
Oh, for sure.
And then one other thing, and then I think that might be one big attraction for sure. And then the idea of being the term integrator to me is like, I'm the one building.
Yeah.
Like I'm the one putting the pieces together. Me as the visionary of what I want to build, I'm struggling to put the pieces together. I need my right hand man to
Right.
help put that together, and that is an attractive thing for somebody who has your personality type.
Yeah.
And when I was looking for an integrator, that's exactly what integrators want. They want to create systems, do and build. They don't
Yeah.
want to create, see, and that's what seems like brought me towards us.
Yeah, and those are all great points, Dan. I mean, it's all of that, and I think it takes a person like me too. Like I don't think Dan and I have a lot of ego. I think that we're both very confident. I think that we both stand on our own 2 feet, and that has nothing to do with arrogance or anything like that. That said, I know I'm not a visionary. Like I have dreams and things that I want to do, but I enjoy doing, and I know that, and I've come to accept that I don't have to be an owner. I can get my slice of the pie doing what I do because I'm really good at that. And Dan doesn't have ego in the fact that he doesn't try to tell me what to do or how to do things. He's literally like, I didn't know how to do this. Can you help me do this? And it's like, yeah. And then, like I said, the predictive index and the disc assessment brought us together. So those two personalities meet, or the skill sets, I should say the skill sets. Personality is a separate thing, It just so happened that we get along. and that's important. But it's not necessarily required. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to think you have to hire your friend or meet someone that you like. Just find someone who wants to do and loves to do what they do and is good at it, right? Just like my designers. Be great at what you do, be good at communication, and know how to bring customers across the line, the finish line. But circling back to, being hired and what can owners do is lose the ego, don't think you know it all, because if you knew it all, you wouldn't have that need.
Yeah.
And that's a strength. When an owner can admit that I need help with figuring, this out, that's a strength. And people like me are going to see that. I see that. I respect that. And yeah, that's kind of where that's what brought me along, is being able to work with someone who allows me to do operations. Like, we had a person in the group yesterday who I could tell he's just a little too hard on his folks. He needs to remove himself as the integrator because he's not one. He's a visionary.
Talking to the dealer?
Yeah,
Yes.
the dealer dude. Like, if he'll let go of his control, I think he'll rocket into the future, with folks sticking around and that type of a thing.
Well, I think it's a great, we could wrap it up on this, but I think a lot of owners typically have issues with, let's just say, authority. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
So in this case, that person actually went to jail for manslaughter.
Interesting.
Yes. And he got himself straight. He's, straight as an arrow now. Super.
He's good to listen to.
Christian guy. He's very well spoken. He really worked on himself.
Yeah,
big
yeah.
time, right?
Okay, you can tell.
The last 8 years, he's just nothing but worked on himself. I think there's some fear there more than anything. It's not that he doesn't trust or want. I think there's some fear that, in this case, his might be that he can't let go because he doesn't want to go backwards on that journey that's come from hell,
For real.
Whereas, like, maybe the squeegee or becoming an owner in the rap world has allowed somebody to unlock things that they never even thought were imaginable, even though it's not the best, because they're still having to do everything and they're working 80 hours a week and stuff, and they're kind of coping with that, and they're still like, it's better than that.
Right.
So then they're scared to relinquish control because they don't want to go back to the thing that they ran from.
Yeah.
They're not actually driven. They're actually kind of being dragged by it, right?
Right.
From fear of, well, if I get this to you and you don't do a good job.
It's that leap of faith, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. It's scary. But once you start, is it not easier once you start doing it, though? Like, once you start, like, letting go and you just put standards around it, and it's like a timeline, like a 30, a 60, 90 day in the beginning, you'll know.
Yeah.
And you just repeat that process until you find the right person.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great. And the other thing is, too, is that you've said it, but it was kind of breezed over. We won't talk amounts, but, like, you actually came back to this for lesser money, but better quality of life, culture, but bigger. There probably would be more for you the long term because of the structure you guys built, but you're playing long game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so instead of receiving, let's say, I don't know, an extra $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year, or something like that on the front end, you're like, it's way bigger on the back end, but I believe in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's great too, because you now have skin in the game.
Absolutely.
That 10K a year or whatever, I'm just using fictitious numbers, is you having skin in the game.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe this level, it depends on the company's business model. If you're looking to grow big time like Dan is, if you want to double something, it's going to take an effort. People aren't going to do twice the work in half the time. You're going to have to hire people. You're going to have to organize things. It's going to have to work like a smooth running machine. And to get folks in supply chain who understand the Toyota production system, who understand process and efficiency improvement, it takes a great conversation, and it takes a little bit of money, but it also takes a great plan. I'm looking for this. I found it. I don't need to speak in the past anymore. I have found that opportunity that I couldn't build on my own as a visionary, because that's not what I'm great at, but a platform that someone trusts me and is giving me the opportunity to push forward.
Awesome.
Now, I run everything through him too, you know what I mean? It's not a free-for-all, it's not anything I take it for advantage, you know, so it takes two, you know, but we're just doing a good job.
You're like the ball going forward, and he's the gutter rails.
Yeah, for real.
Like,
That's a great analogy.
like, you know what I mean? Like you're just keeping, like you're building the momentum, the speed, and the velocity of this thing, and making sure that it's trying to stay straight. But every now and then it might start deviating, and he's like, nope, no, come back over here, no, come back over here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, that vision.
But that's exactly what it is. But I think it's awesome. I love you guys' relationship. I think I'm super stoked. Like, I love you getting on like the calls some days, and you're just like, I got these ideas. And I'm just like, hell yeah, let's go. Because like, I love driven. I don't even like saying employees, like teammates, you know.
Well, I really love the atmosphere that you guys bring to the table. That the groups and the business groups and the meeting with Torque all the time. I haven't experienced that in the past, and if I have, it's been different variations. But like, we have a very collaborative group.
Yeah.
And if I could just real quickly, you know, I'm not afraid of the competition at all. Like, I already know me, so I'm good, and I know Dan, we're good. So we wander over to the competition and ask for help. I find out what they're doing good. I find out how they're doing things. I also make sure they have a 14-foot door, and then I make them friends. And I let them know that I'm not afraid of them. I give them transparency to a certain point that allows them to understand they can trust me at some level as a business partner, and that I don't want to compete. I want to collaborate. I think all of us as a business in this industry can collaborate more, because that's what comes through in the Torque meetings and what comes through at RBO. And yes, it's competition. That said, there's a lot of work. There's really a lot of work out there.
It's the mindset of abundance versus scarcity. Like, no, this is mine. Nobody touch it.
Yeah, like, I just got to have this whole thing that, you know, whatever. And I mean, there's some local companies that have undercut people and they're struggling because of that. And there's some local people that are bigger, but they don't treat the customers right, and they're going to struggle because of that. And then there's someone like us who's taking a look at the whole situation and strategizing to dominate and hopefully bring something great to the industry, greater than what we already do.
It's awesome.
So appreciate it.
Well, Chris, this has been awesome.
Yeah, great chat.
This has been fun. I appreciate it, you guys.
Hopefully this is valuable to somebody out there. That's why we do these things. Leave a comment in the chat if you have any questions for future videos, and we'll see you on the next one.